Hey everyone, welcome. It looks like we've got you you're in listen only mode. We'd like to welcome you. We're going to get started. Today we've got a really good program going for us today. Hopefully I want to make sure, and I've got some observers on here, I want to make sure you're seeing our presenters as well as the slides up and running, everyone. Bailey can confirm that?
Yes.
Perfect.
Confirmed, yep.
All right, well, good news. And we're going to get going now. Everybody should have their martini kit ready to go. And in that martini kit, you had your vodka, your vermouth. I'm going to go ahead and mix mine up right now. And if we all want to do that while we're waiting for others to join, we'll get that out of the way. I'm going to shake mine. So I'm going to use this, put it in. Crushed ice. The Tito's. The vermouth. This is an important part, you guys. I really think this is important. Some of you may have found out otherwise. Definitely got to put the cap on. In our instructions, we said use a towel. Good idea. Otherwise, you know, that waterproof keyboard might just get a test. Ooh, it's cold. Ooh, it's cold. All right. Woo. Frosty. Drop. And to you all, cheers. Thanks for coming. Welcome to the virtual happy hour. All right. What a way to start a Tuesday afternoon. Well, it looks like we're starting to, more people are gathering, and we'll get going today. While we get rolling on this, we'll share with you our agenda, which was published already, so should be no surprises here. We'll start off and we'll do some introductions. I'm going to come back to this at the introduction time. Then we'll just kind of set the stage as far as what really the threat landscape is nowadays with the now normal of, you know, what folks working from home, some returning to work, back and forth, flexing, and basically the threat surface has really broadened and gotten really stressed out there. So we're going to talk about that. Then what Pulse Secure has to offer to help those things and help you and your downstream partners, your resellers, be successful selling Pulse Secure. So that said, I'm going to start off and I'm going to introduce Bryan Embry. He's the Senior Product Marketing Manager for Pulse Secure. Bryan, say hi and tell us a little something interesting about yourself.
Hello, I've been at Pulse about 3 years, and I have here. I've got a stack of chess books showing you how geeky I am right next to me. That may be interesting or not.
You like chess. So my 16-year-old started beating his mom finally. So yeah, enjoying the chess. That's great. And we also have, it says on here field CTO. I thought it, but he's from the office of the CTO. It's our emissary Ashur. Ashur, say hi and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, Ashur Kanoon. I am a field CTO in the office of the CTO. I have a checkerboard over here. I'm working my way up to chess. Maybe I'll get there in a couple of years.
King me. I love it. That's fantastic. And I'm Tom Poor. I'm the Partner Development Manager at Securematics for Pulse Secure. A lot of secures in there. Really what I am, I'm the pivot man in the middle, making sure that our partners are well served by Pulse Secure and that Pulse Secure has great access to what we can do. We'll talk about some of those things. As a matter of fact, part of what we do. Oh, and as you can tell, I like guitars. I'm really not a very good guitarist, but I really like to take them apart, put them back together again. In fact, she was a natural color just last week, and I I kind of went wild on a rosette. I saw a black and white rosette and went crazy on that. She's my experimental guitar, my Frankenstein, if you will. And so anyway, Pulse Secure, what we really do is we really help the VARs downstream with things like dedicated salespeople and pre-sales technical support. We can help you out with trial and demo gear, things like that. We offer free ground shipping on all shipments. And really what we can do is help folks with flexible payment options and terms as well, if that's something that you're interested in. This is the team behind us all. As I mentioned, a dedicated sales resource, but we also have sales engineering. You'll see Anand, our sales engineer, and his team out there. We can do, help you out with proof of concepts, help you, explode a bomb and the BOM kind, and, figure out how we might be able to help you and really tackle some of the technical issues. Shelley Rogers, our Director of Finance and Operations, can help with things like special terms and finance options. Behind that, we've got a whole team. Not going to bore you, but you'll notice that even Bryan Vincic, our GM's email address is up here, and everybody's fully engaged in helping our partners be successful. So let me set the table real quick, and I'm not going to read. You guys have all seen that. Everybody that attends these kind of webinars are seeing all the statistics. I'm just going to drop a couple of them that I think are pretty interesting. One of the biggest things I've seen is everybody is kind of not going back to work. I've heard figures as high as 45% that will never go back to the office, that they're the management team is already deciding this person is, or group of persons are very, very productive in the situation they're in, so they're going to let it keep rolling and not have to roll it in. It's affecting the commercial and the residential real estate market as well, and how those are both being marketed. So that only half of employees worldwide are working more than 2 to 2.5 days a week in the workplace. And so what does that do? Everybody's out, everybody's using their own devices. IoT, I'm connected through VPN to my corporate network, just like you all are. And so it does spread out the threat challenge, and then IoT and other things as well. I think one of the things that's interesting on this slide is that there's a huge increase in ransomware attacks, and that they're going after more SMBs, and that the average cost to a small and medium-sized business is about 35 grand on a ransomware attack. And I got to tell you, most of the small businesses I know, that would be a hit that would be very rough to sustain. So anyway, that's just kind of a peek. We'll always like to set the table so that we can talk about it. Now I'm going to turn it over to the folks that really know what's going on, Bryan and Ashur, to tell us about how Pulse Secure can help do these things. But I think before we get started, don't you have a, oh no, I'm just going to turn it over to you, Bryan, and I'm going to make you the presenter.
That sounds good.
And then you'll be able to have complete control. Bryan Embry. Yes. And I believe you should be able to advance the slides now.
Everybody should be seeing my screen as I click enter mode. There we go. Okay.
Excellent.
So first of all, thanks for the chance to speak about sort of the now normal, as Tom said. Ashur and I will be kind of going through first a quick overview of the Pulse portfolio, and then we'll go more deeply into Pulse Connect Secure and the secure remote access portion of our portfolio. During this presentation, we'll talk about how we can help today, tomorrow, a little bit at the end, how we're better than the competition, and then at the end, I'll turn this back over to Tom, and we'll all do a wrap up and Q&A, and maybe we'll have some fun along the way. Quickly speaking, our mission at Pulse is to deliver secure access solutions. We really do concentrate solely on that and have developed a portfolio around delivering just that and nothing else. And so in that vein, we're in over 80% of the Fortune 500. We have a whole bunch of customers and a whole bunch of users. We do this globally, not only for users across the world, but we are in a number of countries as well, having over 600 employees worldwide. And we've got a long history of this. We were a spin out from Juniper Networks Juniper acquired the intellectual property of Pulse years ago, and we've been honing it and developing it all along. A sort of a quick view of our zero trust capabilities. Zero trust is a term that has gained quite a bit of market share or market recognition lately. And it basically, the tenet of zero trust is that you don't trust anyone, not even somebody on the inside. You want to make sure that all users are verified, and we've got capabilities here in terms of single sign-on, multi-factor authentication. The idea there is to authenticate and authorize every single user, regardless of who they are, before they enter your network. We make sure that the device itself is compliant. We do things like host checking. We look at the presence of certain kinds of files, the presence of anti-malware, antivirus software, a whole bunch of other things. But again, before the connection's made, and we in fact maintain state on that as we go through the connection. And I'll talk about that more later. We manage access through a series of granular policies, and we enforce that regardless of what kind of device it is, and make sure that people have access only to the resources that they are allowed to. And then obviously we have techniques to make sure that the data is protected throughout the transaction. We've got things like always on demand, and per app VPN, which ensures that a user is protected and the data itself is protected throughout the transaction. Here's a view of our portfolio. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to kind of concentrate on Pulse Connect Secure in the upper left. We just recently announced Pulse Zero Trust Access, which is a zero trust network access software-defined perimeter product. But we also have others, Pulse Policy Secure, which is useful for IoT and network access control, Pulse Workspace, which is on the mobile device side. We've got a virtual application delivery control product for making sure that applications deliver the content in a balanced way across your infrastructure. And then we've got a management application, Pulse One, which does the policy enforcement, reporting, dashboards, and things like that. So this gives you an idea of our overall product portfolio. As I mentioned, in a second, I'm going to turn this over to Ashur, and he's going to kind of go through all of this, and then I'll take over in a little bit and go a little bit deeper into Pulse Connect Secure. But first, we have a trivia question. How many pores could Tom Poor pour if Tom Poor could pour pores? And we talked about this yesterday, and the answer is, of course, 4. But
that's the natural, but the other,
right,
depending upon the time of day, 4, it could be 4 on Sunday morning, or 4 at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or I'm such an accommodating person that how many pores could Tom pour if Tom Poor could pour pores? As many as it takes. Cheers.
All right. With that, Tom actually did talk a little bit about this in terms of setting the stage. At a sort of higher level, everybody here is familiar with the fact that users are becoming more mobile, they're using more devices, and they're accessing data more and more from a variety of locations. At the same time, apps and the data itself is now in more and more locations itself. It's in the cloud, it's on premise, it's on private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud. It's more distributed than ever. Remote offices, branch offices are accessing that data through the cloud as well. And at the same time, threats are becoming more and more prevalent and more sophisticated. So kind of how do you address that? By encouraging mobility as well as productivity and security at the same time, and that's not a simple task. At the beginning of sort of at least here in California, in terms of the COVID lockdown, we did a survey of how many people were working from home back in December versus May, and we found a rapid increase, as you might expect, of people working from home, and organizations struggled a bit with enabling that secure remote access overnight, or the equivalent of overnight. That rapid adjustment meant maybe a little bit of turning a blind eye to certain policies. People felt that there were the same security controls and policies for on-premise and remote users, but they were allowing some access from personal and unmanaged devices to maintain that level of productivity. And so there was a bit of a disconnect in terms of the enabling of the access versus making sure that that access was secure. And that has led to a number of challenges in today's environment, the now normal. How do you quickly enable secure access for additional workers coming on board? How do you enable that while integrating those policies with your existing policy infrastructure? And how do you deploy new infrastructure, especially doing it sort of remotely? And how do you do this while continuing to meet compliance mandates and requirements? And then, of course, troubleshooting, which was difficult enough when it was face-to-face. Now it's all remote, and making sure all of that plays nicely together. All of these challenges are something that infrastructure operators today struggle with. At this point, I think it's good to turn it back over to Ashur, who can go through these slides and kind of show how our portfolio fits together and how we address those challenges, as well as how it all fits into an organization's infrastructure.
All right, thank you, Bryan. So first, we're going to take a look at how we provide network access, and we're going to look at this from the remote perspective, which is the Pulse Connect Secure. Typically, Pulse Connect Secure sits on the edge. This could be the edge of your enterprise. It could be in the cloud if you're running services in like AWS or Azure. This could be a physical instance, a virtual instance, cloud-based instance. And what this allows us to do is all the stuff that Bryan had talked about around different means of authentication, including multi-factor authentication, all of the device compliance checks that we do. But the one nice thing about Connect Secure is it's really a consolidated gateway. So think of all the different types of devices that want to connect, from your mobile devices to desktops, along with all the different things you're trying to connect to on the back end. These can be, your standard web applications, custom web applications, other protected resources like data stores. It could also be things like your VDI infrastructure. So say you're running something from Citrix or a VMware Horizon View, or you just wanted RDP, SSH, Telnet. Instead of having to go and put specific types of gateways, Pulse Connect Secure allows you to connect to all those things. You can connect to them through like layer 3 tunnels that basically drop you onto the network. You can get to them at an application level, say you're using your mobile desktop client, or you can go through them all through a browser, and that takes advantage of rewriting functionality that we do, where we can have like RDP sessions translated into HTML5, so they're 100% native. No plugins you have to install, nothing that needs to be supported. It's all native in the browser. So that's for the remote user. On-prem, we have Pulse Policy Secure, which is the policy decision point, but we take advantage of your wireless LAN, your switching environment, and firewalls to do the actual enforcement. And part of Pulse Policy Secure is a profiler that goes out and finds everything that's on your network. So there's manned devices like laptops and mobile devices, but there's also a lot of other things like IP phones, maybe web-connected TVs, maybe your security system, printers, that all need to get network access, but you need to ensure that it's secure access. It's not just anybody who plugs into a physical device or physical port can get access. So these are ways we provide network access, and the nice thing is they're integrated together. So anything that Pulse Policy Secure can see, Pulse Connect Secure can see, and vice versa, so that we're sharing information no matter where the actual device lives. Next slide, please. So now we look at, well, one of the things that Bryan talked about was a lot of people are using their own devices. Some people haven't been in the office in months. In those months, they've probably gotten new mobile devices, they've bought new desktops or laptops, or they're just using things that they already had at the house. So how do you get those things ready? Well, from a mobile perspective and a desktop perspective, you want to be able to provision these devices. So through Pulse Workspace, you can send Wi-Fi information, you can send email configuration, you can also push applications to the device. You can also provision things like VPN so that a user, it's all self-service. They don't have to call IT. They don't have to ship their device. And now they're productive. Next, please. And as people start moving things from on-prem, say they were hosting a Microsoft Exchange server, that Microsoft Exchange server now is running as part of Office 365. We wanted to make sure that we have consistent user experience, regardless of where these devices or the applications live. So with Cloud Secure, which is functionality on top of Connect Secure, you have the same authentication, same device compliance. There's no gaps. There's no new behavior that the end user has to learn. And now they can go and connect to SaaS-based applications through single sign-on, so it makes the end user experience easier. And there's some really cool things we do because of the integration for end users. So as an example, let's say your user gets onto Wi-Fi and now they try to access Salesforce or something on, something in the cloud like Dropbox. Because the system knows who you are, what device you're coming from, you can be signed into Office 365 or any SaaS application without having to really authenticate to them, because the whole system knows who you are. And they know that for you to get to these cloud applications or SaaS applications, you need to authenticate. Since we already know who you are, we send SAML assertions with all the information needed, and now you're in. So it's security plus convenience. Next, please. And then we also look at the application delivery controller, and think of this as a load balancer plus a bunch of other functionality that makes the end user experience easier. So caching, compression of images, things that allow, again, the end user experience to be supreme. And this could be something that goes above, in front of applications, so that even if you have some applications that are legacy, there's things that we can inject into what the end user is seeing, into the HTML, that makes it for a better end user experience. So if you've added new authentication types, but the application doesn't support it, we can actually inject things into the application that allows for that support without having to tweak that 20, 15-year-old application. And we can also use things like ADC to make the remote or on-prem access easier. So instead of having a huge list of connections that the end user has to try to remember where do they connect, it could be vpn.yourcompany.com, and depending on where the user lives or where the user is connecting from, they'll get access to the nearest gateway. The next one is Pulse One. Pulse One manages PCS and PPS, gives you a consolidated view, consolidated logs, so that your operations team can quickly go in and see what's going on with the system, make sure everything's okay. If you have to back up configurations or set upgrades for your global deployments, you can do all that stuff through Pulse One. And then this next piece is the Pulse Zero Trust Access that Bryan had mentioned. And what this does is we took all of the learnings we've had over the last 15 plus years, and we tried to figure out, well, how do we get Zero Trust access to on-prem applications and cloud-based applications in an easy way that's consolidated. The gateways themselves are headless, meaning there's no configurations. You can deploy these anywhere you want, on-prem, in the cloud. Everything's done through the ZTA controller. They're application-based policies, meaning a good user on a good device, depending on the policy, may or may not have access to certain applications. So it gets really granular. We've simplified the configuration. It's all through workflows. So we've tried to take our many years of learning and put them in a package that's more secure and easier to use. All right, and then in terms of value props, I mean, there's a bunch. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but we'll talk about a few. So automation with ZTA and the ZTA controller, we have open APIs. So if you're onboarding new applications, onboarding new users, or you're trying to get insight so that you can feed some of this information into the rest of your DevOps or your security systems, that's all built in. We have insights and analytics. So the insights and analytics not only let us know what the user is doing, but there are things that are like adaptive. So let's say you have a good user on a good device, and all of a sudden they're logging in at 2 a.m. and downloading a 2 gig file. This isn't normal behavior. It's anomalous. So we want to make sure that we allow the user or the system to take action without having an administrator that needs to be there. So it's all like just in time and automatic analysis. With that, I think I'll pass it back to Bryan, who's getting bombarded by messages from Olivia.
Yeah. One thing I thought would be kind of interesting to compare and contrast at this point was, since everybody's basically working from home, I thought we'd look at Ashur's home offices and compare and contrast against mine. This is his home office, and that's his view from what it looks like from his condo in the high rise, but then that's his office from the lake house, which he frequents fairly often. Whereas this is my home office and indicates just how posh I have. That view of mine is pretty impressive.
Well, it's most efficient design I've ever seen. You never have to leave your desk.
That's what they're looking for is high productivity. One quick slide on integration, and we'll kind of cover these next slides relatively quickly because I'm sure that there's more information available in a slightly easier to digest format. But one of the things that we take very seriously at Pulse is how we make sure that we integrate within the existing ecosystems, existing infrastructures that organizations have deployed. We've worked very hard to make sure that we have a comprehensive set of APIs. We integrate with different types of MFA systems like Okta, Ping Identity, Microsoft ADFS. We support real-time adaptive policies for next generation firewalls and SIM management systems. We offer a bunch of visibility analytics that can be extracted and incorporated into separate reporting systems or other management tools. And we really work hard to make sure that the information that we collect is exportable into other tools and management systems. Here's a slide that talks a little bit about capabilities that we offer in terms of maybe recent customer projects that are being deployed and how we can help. So for example, on the left, we're using, companies are using SaaS for IT services. They look for single sign-on and access policies. And how we can help is making sure that by using Cloud Secure, you can extend single sign-on, as Ashur mentioned early on with the capabilities from Pulse Connect Secure and Cloud Secure. That's a streamlined user experience. The credentials are not shared, meaning that if somebody accesses a cloud application from maybe a public Wi-Fi that's not really all that trusted, that Cloud Secure can do that automatically, and credentials are not transmitted across the local area network so that they could potentially be stolen. Moving further down, you can potentially enhance business continuity strategy with cloud backup using our virtual application delivery controller, identifying and segregating IoT devices with our network profiling and network access control products, and enabling application development within the private and public cloud. So listing of Pulse Connect capabilities across the board on the right-hand side. Couple quick slides on our service offerings. Again, this is another thing that we take very seriously, and that especially we really doubled down on this during the early stages of COVID. As you might imagine, there was a significant amount of interest in secure remote access in the early portions, May, June, even into April. We wanted to make sure that everybody was completely supported and able to integrate all of the office workers into the home environment. And so we've got platinum and gold solutions where we take response times very seriously. We always have a human available to take calls, and we do a follow the sun model, so it's a global approach. We mentioned a little bit earlier about Access Suites Plus. This is a sort of a way to enable organizations to get a wide-ranging amount of functionality. We've augmented this recently, and there's a significant financial incentive for customers to do this. The Essentials Plus suite on the far left basically focuses on VPN, cloud, and endpoint compliance. That is Pulse Connect Secure, Cloud Secure, and Pulse Workspace, as well as the host checking capabilities that we offer, so that we can ensure that devices are compliant before they access applications. The Advanced Plus takes that, adds in network access control, and endpoint and IoT device management. It's sort of geared for slightly larger organizations that look for broader functionality and capabilities. We include some anomaly detection and response, as well as optimal gateway selection there at the bottom. That's a way to make sure that your Pulse Connect Secure is optimally placed for fastest and best response to users. And the Enterprise Plus gets all of that, plus SLAs, high availability solutions, in case of emergency licensing, that kind of thing that really is guaranteed for sort of global organizations who are demanding a very resilient and robust solution.
Hey, Bryan,
So why? Yes.
before you go, why Pulse Secure? I've neglected, we're a little bit overdue. We have a couple of questions, trivia questions that we're going to award some prizes to. We'll go back and ship them out later. I've got a polling question I want to share before you dive into this. And here we go. The poll is open. So what is the first car that we see James Bond in on screen in the first movie, Dr. No, in 1962? I know which one it is, but I was wrong on my first guess. So organizers and panelists don't vote. Everybody, oh, and we've got some changes. I think I scared a few people when they, I gave away that it wouldn't be your obvious. So it looks like the percentages are adding up. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. And then we'll, there we go. Share the poll results. How do I share that?
I'm sharing them, Tom.
Oh,
they're up.
Bailey, thanks for saving me. You got it. So
yeah, those are the final results.
Those are the final results. Do we give them the answer or do we answer it later?
We can give them the answer.
So I was surprised. It was the Get Smart car. It was the Sunbeam Alpine, not the Aston Martin that came in subsequent movies. So kind of interesting. Thanks for that. We've got another one coming up, and whoever was the first to respond with Sunbeam Alpine, we'll be sending you out a little goodie bag. That said, and now I have to close this and get it back. Good, we're good to go, and I think it's still on you, Bryan.
Okay. So why Pulse Secure? Basically, you get a best of all worlds, a simpler, modular, integrated platform. We really do provide zero trust secure access today. In fact, we've been doing it since the company inception many years ago. We make sure that we integrate with the existing infrastructure across that ecosystem. We are a leading secure access vendor, superior productivity, visibility, compliance. We've got a single unified client that I'll talk about in a couple of minutes. And we stress very strongly that that single client works across our portfolio. We've got extensive authentication, device compliance, and policy management to make sure that only authorized users get access to the correct applications that they're authorized to do so. We are built for hybrid IT, mobile, data center, multi-cloud, public, private, any combination thereof, on-premise, that kind of stuff. We really work hard to make sure that everyone is able to access the applications that they are enabled to access. With that, further trivia question real quick. Thought that maybe we could do a quick age comparison here.
Yeah, by the way, you all, Brian's questions do not come with a prize, only humiliation. So.
Thought of anybody, the one that I've in the early going C on the lower left, if anybody recognizes that, that is the first keyboard and mouse demonstration from 1969. But I had a hard time remembering the Palm Pilot back even after I had one. So, all right, with that, a quick set of slides going a little bit deeper on stuff that Ashur and I have been kind of talking about. So we've talked about our comprehensive secure remote access. I mentioned that single client. That client is capable of being self-service installed, so any user can go ahead and download that thing. If I can do it, anybody on this call can do it. I mentioned those stateful device security checks, single sign-on, that sort of thing. We'll go a little bit more deeply into this. We support all major cloud providers. We've got a full range of physical and virtual appliances. Again, we are perfect for hybrid IT and work very hard to make sure that we are deployable across everybody's estate, so to speak. I mentioned that client. It's a uniform client that works across our portfolio. So you don't have to download or use different clients for different products. It really does simplify that deployment. You get simultaneous access to multiple applications for really a streamlined user experience. Administrators like this also because they get fewer help desk calls. This client allows us to do those integrated security posture checks. So we are looking for the presence of antivirus and anti-malware software, browser types, patch levels, even the presence of certain kinds of files. And if we find something that's out of compliance, we can remediate the device, we can even quarantine it, and that sort of thing prevents things like malware from propagating onto your network. And then that client also enables the centralized management of end devices. So if something does need to take place, you can do that without any manual intervention on the part of the user. It spans multiple operating systems, Mac, Windows, iOS, Android, Linux, that sort of thing. That said, you don't necessarily need the client for everything. There are some common web applications that you can access without a client. We have the ability to download and look at the device and then dissolve that software so that we make sure that the device still makes or meets compliance standards. And Ashur mentioned we have a wide support for virtual desktop infrastructure, VMware, Citrix, Microsoft, that sort of thing. So if there are legacy systems that administrators need to use, mainframes, especially in governments and municipal cities, that sort of thing, they all have legacy systems. But that still enables us to enforce corporate secure access policies across the board. I mentioned continuous strong authentication. We've got dynamic, adaptive, multi-factor authentication. So what this essentially means is that you enter something that you know and something that you potentially have, and that can transpire or be looked at and tracked throughout the transaction. So for example, if I log in from my home But then during that transaction, all of a sudden I look like I'm coming from Vegas or something like that. Perhaps that's a device that's been stolen, and will require that user to do further authentication to ensure that that transaction remains going. We have a broad array of standards-based authentication methods, Secure ID, SAML, temporary one-time passwords, and things like that. And we're in fact just recently enhanced our system to work with Windows Hello for Business, which uses a gesture on certain kinds of Windows devices, which may or may not be easier to remember as a password, but that's a further example of how seriously we take our authentication capabilities. Again, the idea is to make sure that only appropriate people have access to the appropriate resources. That stateful endpoint security compliance, that device is checked prior to every connection. We maintain state on all of those devices. So if a device changes midstream, we'll flag it and potentially require additional authentication. And again, we can grant, deny, quarantine, remediate those devices based on a number of policies that we offer within our central management capability. And again, this significantly reduces the chance of malware penetrating networks. This is Pulse's Cloud Secure single sign-on. Users enter credentials once. Again, often used when accessing cloud applications, even more useful now from Wi-Fi networks that are maybe a little less than up to snuff. It increases compliance. We still get the endpoint security checks, and that enables data in motion to be protected. Again, we're location aware. We look at networks perhaps that are less obvious or less secure than others. And again, we integrate with third-party identity providers like Ping, Okta, and Microsoft. One more thing that was of high value early on, we offer something called in case of emergency licensing. This was designed initially for things like winter storms, but as people transitioned dramatically to working from home, it's a quick way of enabling people to, again, get full access to the capacity of the appliance. So for example, if you've got 100 users on Monday, and then on Tuesday, all of a sudden it goes to 1,000, you enter this, and the license enables the full capacity of the box to be available, and you can accommodate winter storms or other unforeseen events. And then when the demand goes back down, you turn it basically back off, and off you go. So thought we'd do a quick quiz. This again, as Tom mentioned, this is just for fun. The main benefit of single sign-on, one of the things that I thought is that it's easier to tell someone on the freeway what you really think of their driving. But it's really number 3, it reduces credential theft, especially when folks are using skeezy Wi-Fi. Multi-factor authentication. One of the first times that I interacted with Ashur is he used the word SAML. I thought I'd bring that up, and because he does use SAML to impress people at cocktail parties. Or you can use it as a gesture to Microsoft to tell them that they're number 1.
That's why I was wondering about that gesturing thing you were talking about. If I can, real quick, we do have a pretty good question here from William Burris in the crowd. Hang on a second, let me bring it up. Does Pulse Secure compete against A10 networks, or can it support? So can you work with or compete against, I guess is the question there.
Yeah, so A10 Networks also has a load balancer, I think it's SSL and SSL offload, similar to our application delivery controller, the ADC that we talked about. So we do kind of compete with them, but we can work with them. So if you do want to load balance PCS or PPS, we actually even have documentation on how to do it, working with A10.
And we compete with them straight up as well?
On the application delivery side, yes.
Okay. I think that answers the question. Let you go. Better than the competition, Brian. Thanks for the question, William.
Two quick slides. Kind of wanted to show how we're competing against next generation firewalls. As everybody here knows, next gen firewalls offer a certain amount of VPN capability. They're not necessarily concentrating on that per se. They really do spend most of their resources making sure that the firewall functionality is the primary part and that the VPN is sort of secondary. They don't do the things like compliance enforcement and sort of cloud secure, single sign-on things that we really concentrate on. They don't offer a mobile device management capability, container system that we offer. It really is, it's sort of it's a decent solution for certain small vendors or customers, but if you're looking for really secure remote access that's taken very, very seriously, Pulse Connect Secure is a better choice. Similar in terms of what we offer versus traditional VPN vendors. Again, we really do concentrate on that compliance enforcement, checking the devices prior to and during the connection to make sure that they are compliant, because really organizations want to make sure that their security profile across the board is as high as possible. We might have our single client. Other vendors offer different clients for different capabilities. And that confuses the user. Which client do I use for this application? Which client do I use for another? Within Pulse, it's one client for pretty much everything. We support a variety of different operating systems. We do things, and then we get into sort of some abstract stuff, as mentioned, the always on with lockdown mode. Users can't get out of a VPN, whether they like it or not. The connection will be stopped if they try to do some kind of shadow IT thing. I mentioned that biometric authentication. So anyway, the bottom line here is that we really do take secure access extremely seriously and offer a variety of techniques to make sure that users have as much productivity at their disposal, as well as administrators have as much fine-grained control as possible as well. So with that, I will turn it back over to Tom. I appreciate it. And Tom, I'm going to give you control, or you can take control.
Thanks. I think I can do either. I'm going to pop into a couple of questions here while I change screen. Webcam sharing. Come on, pop open. Pop open. Thank you. Show my screen. And there we go. Cool. So while I'm on this screen real quick, I'm going to do two things. We're going to ask, we're going to drop trivia question for a prize. I'm going to answer a question, and then one of our questions leads right into partner programs and things like that. So get that going. How do I drop? There we go. So Dr. No is supposed to be which animal in the early drafts of the script? A monkey, a great white, a tiger, a Persian cat, or a Saint Bernard? Rock and roll. Once again, the first person that answers with the correct answer will send them out a goodie box. And the results should pop up there pretty quickly. And while those are coming up, I had a question on our third slide, Brian. It was a wheel of partners, and one of our attendees asked, why is Huawei on that sign?
So I can answer that. So Huawei is on there because we are a global company. We sell to folks in China and APAC and other regions where they still buy network infrastructure from Huawei. So of course, we want to make sure our customers are happy, and we support whatever they ask us to support.
Fantastic. Great. There's my poll. Hang on, I've got to get to my poll. And it looks like about 22% of you were correct. The monkey was originally Dr. No was going to be a monkey, but we spread it out all over that. So whoever that was, let me make sure before I go further, we have any other questions outstanding. We got that one. Thanks for that answer, Ashur, for sure. And yeah, and so the next question is demo gear programs, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. That's my part now. Still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Good. So we'll get going
Not
on
anymore.
that. Not anymore?
Away.
Hang on, screen.
All right, now we see it.
There we go. Sorry about that. I actually clicked the wrong button. So real quick here, promotions through the end. Most of you on board and attending today probably know about most of these. Details can be had from me, and the team at Securematics will help you through it. There's a NAC appliance buyback. You can convert ICE to subscriptions. There's a PSA upgrade, and then actually a way that you can try the profile out for free. So if you need details on that, we'll get back to you on that. And help you with that. And the answer to the demo pool and other questions, absolutely. Anybody on board, contact me, contact your inside salesperson. We'll work with you on any kind of demo gear. We even actually do some proof of concept stuff in the office and have a lab set up there where our SE Anon can help us get through just about anything. So would love to have a call with you afterwards and get into the nitty gritty and find out what you'd like to know on that. So yeah, demo gear, all the kind of support that you would expect goes right back to my slide on the Securematics side. That's the interaction in between where we can help you get, resources, whatever they might be, whether they're, technical, sales, or financial. Real quick, and not going to go deep into this. You can see the things that are good for the fourth quarter partner reward program. There's gift cards for deals above 100K. There's deals for above from 500 to 99K and deals 10K to 499. So those getting registered. Once again, if you have any questions about that, you can work with our team on the Securematics side, and we make sure that you get hooked up on that. So good stuff coming. So yeah, the answers to any of the questions regarding how can we support you, challenge me and give me a toughie. Come with us with anything that you've got, whether it's technical, sales, marketing, financial, stocking. Maybe you've got something coming down the pike and you want to do some, kind of a scheduled buy or something. Just let us know and we'll work with you on it. We also have access to Ashur and Bryan and all the guys on the other end, so we can bring those on board as well. And I think we're getting pretty close to the end. Oh, quickly. Also, if you need anything on the partner portal, the list here is all the things that you can find on the partner portal. If you're not there, please let me know. Be glad to help get you signed up. As you can see, there's a wealth of stuff to get there, and we can help you with that. It's just the way things are going. Those partner portals are gold as far as managing your business through distribution back to the vendor. So that said, a little Q&A. I think we answered. Here's a question somebody asked on the Huawei question again. Could I ask if I buy Pulse gear in the USA, will it have a Huawei chip?
Definitely not. So we don't have any Huawei chips. There's nothing insecure. It's just a integration we do have through things like Radius to a backend Huawei. So there's nothing Huawei. There's nothing that you should be worried about. And if you need more information, we can share some more information.
Absolutely, we can absolutely do that for you. So that said, we've exhausted our questions in the chat box. Thank you all for attending. Cheers. And we'll be following up with you. Also, you all have my contact information. Anything that you heard today that you need more information on, anything you didn't hear today that you need more information on, I'm the one I can get you in contact with all the good stuff, and you'll find us very, very responsive. So, thanks for your attendance today, and another cheers and a nod to Ian Fleming and James Bond. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Well, cheers to Sean Connery.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. All right, I'm going to let you all go back. Now I don't know what people are going to do with a martini in them at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but like an old friend of mine says, One's not enough and three's too many. Talk to you later. Signing off. Adios, everybody. Thanks.
Bye-bye.